This show is brought to you by the people who sponsor me on Patreon and support me during my live shows. Thank you so much to them. That's why you're able to see this. Love ya.
Use explosive shock to slow her down. Fire!
JKB back with another episode. Today on the show I'm reviewing Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered, which is a counterpart to Assassin's Creed Unity from way back in 2014. Assassin's Creed Rogue tells the story of Shay Patrick Cormack, a New Yorker of Irish descent who starts the game out as a member of the Assassin Brotherhood. I was a huge fan of Assassin's Creed Black Flag because of the ship-based gameplay. At the time, it was a brand new feature introduced into the series, and it was a feature that was well received. In fact, so much so that Ubisoft has taken the idea of commanding a pirate ship and designed a whole other game called Skull and Bones, which is actually due out this fall. Rogue was the last game to be released on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Ubisoft at the time decided to bury it under a massively marketed Assassin's Creed Unity, which was the first next-gen Assassin's game built to run on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. As we all know, that didn't turn out to be that great. And behind all the negative reviews for Unity, there was Rogue, hidden in a last-gen system. In terms of calling this a remastered version of the game, I can say it's running at a native 4K on the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X. This is bumped up from the original 720p on the PlayStation 3 and a subpar HD on the Xbox 360. I've noticed a major difference in the render engine, with shadows looking absolutely gorgeous and a solid 60 frames per second throughout the whole experience. Overall, the game looks really good in 4K. The water effects are some of the best I've ever seen in a game, but I have a feeling Sea of Thieves, which is due out at the end of the month, will give this a run for its money in terms of sea-based physics. And it's kind of funny to say that, but there's so many games coming out where water is a big part of it. The game picks up 1 year after the events of Black Flag, and as always, I'm not going to dig too deep into the story in case you wanted to experience it for yourself, but I will get into the fact that the game introduces things that you really haven't seen in any other Assassin's Creed game in terms of the story, but it also expands and explains a few questions you might have about the mythology of the series. Let's get into the pros and cons. I'm going to actually start with the cons, that way I can dig a little deeper into what I didn't like about this game, then I'm going to get to what I really liked about the game. Due to the fact that this is a B-side to Assassin's Creed Unity, I feel that the story in this game wasn't really enough of a length to explore its own concepts. And in saying that, I'd rather play this 100 times over Assassin's Creed Unity. So I kind of feel like they made a massive mistake going with Unity and not really pushing this to the forefront at the time, because like I said, the game has a lot of mythology here that a lot of people are going to really dig. Part of the story has you switching sides from being a good guy to a bad guy, and it's kind of a shame that it's not also switching up the gameplay. It doesn't really affect the gameplay. You're playing the same character, but you're also playing the same gameplay. And when you're an assassin versus a Templar, you kind of want to see that switched up, but it isn't. So I had to include that in the cons because it was just a glaring issue with the game. The world map is very bare bones at times with not too much to do. If you played any Assassin's Creed game, you know they try to stuff it with all sorts of side missions and treasure chests that you want to open up, and maps and all sorts of things. This game kind of feels a little empty at times, and when you play any other Assassin's Creed, this just doesn't compare. It's empty, and it is just disappointing. One of the other things that kind of bothered me was the side missions, and some of the main missions are kind of taken from other Assassin's Creed games, because at that point in the series, we weren't, in the future of the series where it's unbelievable now and there's crazy things happening with AI characters doing ridiculous stuff in the background. We were trapped in the PlayStation 3 days when there wasn't that much memory to make a world come to life. So the missions, as we all know back in the day, kind of were dull, and this game reflects that time period. The voice acting is laughable at times. I have no idea why they brought in like a B team of voice actors to do this, but it is just unbelievably bad. The game also kind of feels like a massive DLC pack for Black Flag, and maybe that's not a bad thing. That was one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games at the time because of the ship combat and the whole pirate, like the whole idea of being a pirate in a game. That's been around for a long time. We've seen pirate games in the past come and go. They don't do so well, but now there's a resurgence of all these pirate themes, and it's kind of exciting because this game now is remastered for you to play on your PlayStation 4 and your Xbox One X in 4K, and it really does feel like a sequel to Black Flag. On-foot combat can be very frustrating at times, and as we all know, the Assassin's Creed series has went through different variations of combat, and it never has felt amazing. It just kind of works, and during Black Flag, that's when I felt, okay, it's working pretty good here, and they definitely stepped it up in Rogue, but it's just frustrating at times that the combat is so clunky and the blocking and, you know, all that stuff. I don't need to really get into the details of that because you know how it is in Assassin's Creed games, and it's still a problem in this game. They didn't go back and fix it for this remaster. Now that I've went over everything I didn't like about the game, let me talk about what I liked about this game, because it definitely has a good side to it. Some people would call this Black Flag 2, and that's definitely not a bad thing. If you loved Black Flag, you're gonna love this game. They should have just called it Black Flag 2. But like I said, it is sparse at times. Another aspect of this game is really interesting if you're a diehard Assassin's Creed fan, because there's a ton of mythology to uncover here that you're not going to get anywhere else, which is very odd. For them to stuff it into this game back in the day on last generation systems when we were already 1 year into PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, it didn't make sense. So what I'm saying to you guys right now, if you're a huge Assassin's Creed fan, for $39.99, this is kind of a must play. The ship battles, as you all know, work just as good as they ever did in Black Flag. I have an absolute blast with this game when it comes to the ship combat. Lastly, I'm gonna go with something that you would not even believe is a good aspect of this game, but I'm gonna say it. Icebergs. And you're thinking right now, he's lost his goddamn mind, but when this game is set in a frozen wonderland and you're a development team, what's the next step? Icebergs. And you kind of think, well, okay, icebergs are gonna be in front of the ships, you're gonna have to deal with those, but the first time I ever shot with my cannons a massive iceberg, it was something I've never seen in a game, because this iceberg collapsed into the water and created massive waves that sent my ship spinning around and all of my enemies spinning around. And it was like, okay, this right here is another aspect that makes this game even better than Black Flag, because now I have to think of my strategy of, you know, moving around these things, causing damage if I crash into them. These are things you need to think about that you never had to do before. So I gotta say, that's a positive. The icebergs are some sort of like magical thing that they put into the water in front of you that you're gonna love, especially if you use those to your advantage to crash other ships into the water. It just works. It just really does work in the game. In closing, I'm going to highly recommend this game, and a final score of 7.5 out of 10. The reason that it's not better, I listed above. The game just has issues that Assassin's Creed always had in the past. The reason it's a 7.5 on the positive side is because this is a sequel to Black Flag. If you love the ship combat in that, boom, you're gonna get it here. If you want to learn more about the mythology, you're gonna get more of it in here than Assassin's Creed Unity. And also, if you liked the pirate theme of Black Flag, this is literally an unofficial sequel to it. It's just as good. I just had a blast playing this game. 7.5. Highly recommend for $39 to go out there if, again, you're an Assassin's Creed fan and you want to do some kick-ass ship combat to prepare you for Sea of Thieves, or at the end of the year, Skull and Bones from Ubisoft. That's going to be a very interesting one. I'm going to leave you with this question. With so many pirate games coming out, with Sea of Thieves and Skull and Bones coming out, are you interested in pirate-themed games? And if you're going to play these, do you think it's going to be Sea of Thieves that takes the almighty #1 spot in terms of pirate games, or is it going to be Ubisoft's Skull and Bones at the end of the year? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next episode of JKB.